what is the problem you're trying to solve for? Because that's important right out of the get-go. We need to make sure if you don't know as the leader, how is your team going to embrace this? We want it to be easy to use. Because if something's not easy, people aren't going to use it. It's not like a plug and play of I buy this off the shelf and here it is. Great, AI solved everything. You need to be prepared that you're going to train it. It's going to take time. It's not going to be perfect right out of the get-go.
Welcome to StitchStudio's Pilot to Production. In this series, we're interviewing insurance executives, investors, and consultants to hear real stories of how the industry is operationalizing AI in insurance. From carriers and brokerages to technology partners and investors, you'll gain practical insights, implementation strategies, and lessons learned from the leaders driving enterprise-scale adoption, moving from pilots to implementing responsible, predictable, and explainable AI. I'm Karan Mishra, CEO of StitchStudio, and this is Pilot to Production.
Kelly, it's great to finally have you here. I've been looking forward to this conversation for a bit. Because of the project we're doing together, and also it's one of those projects where I feel like it's a perfect intersection of how business meets tech, right? Like it's one of those collaborations that I don't see often in this space. Because we're in the tech space is very notoriously famous for just going into a dark room and just building something, hoping people will use it. I feel like it's one of those things that work perfectly, right? Like how progressive an organization can be in terms of how they embrace tech and also, how to make it collaborative in that sense, right? So I want to start the conversation. I want to start the conversation a little bit personal in a sense, like because you're one of those people who I always say this, when we meet people who are working in the industry, there's a lot of intuition that goes in. One of the things that happens with AI is you need that intuition sort of boiled down into some codified way. And you're one of those people who have a ton of intuition about how the business works and how this happens, right? So I want to start, but before we get into the AI project and all that, I want to start with you. It's like, can you give us a little bit of your background, how you got introduced in the industry, how long you've been, what's your role at Heffernan is?
Absolutely. So I'm actually coming up on my 20-year anniversary in January. I am a third generation insurance, professional, as we'll call it. Actually, my grandpa got into the industry and grew up not really understanding it. My dad took over his agency when I was pretty young, and I, was in college and, needed a part-time job, and I got to check in policies. And from that point on, it just became each building step. So got to go into a sales role, got to go into account management, got to go behind the scenes and work through, payables and or just overall payroll admin side of things. So it's been really unique to be able to wear lots of different hats. And actually in 2017 or 2016, I believe, my dad sold his agency to Heffernan. And at that point, it really just became this whole new world of opportunity, just working with a brokerage of much more size and magnitude and different opportunities. And I was always raise my hand and say, wherever I can, do something more, I'm here. I would love opportunities, and got the opportunity to work hand in hand with our president of our unit to start our small business unit. And that's where I've been for the past several years, just growing it out, and it's been amazing.
The history there has been pretty fantastic. I wish for our industry that more people or more future generations are going to work like you than just right now. The general sentiment I get from people when I say like I'm in insurance is like they get an obscure look, right? It's like, wait, what?
Yep.
Your insurance? What? So in and because of your history in both in the industry and with Heffernan, I always am curious when I talk to people with such like deep, roots in the insurance industry. What keeps you motivated in this world? Like, so because different people come at it differently, right? Like it's like people come at it because of the human interaction element to it, and there's there's lots of different ways of looking at it. I'm always curious to find out what keeps people coming back to it, right? And also if we could talk about it in the context of how that part of your world has changed, over the course of you probably, because of the deep history also, you've probably gone through a few technology cycles, right? So
Yep.
I'm always curious to hear that part too.
Yeah. So, when I think back just to, back in 2006 when I started, the world of paper and filing cabinets and walking to and from the different account managers' offices to get that binder to start the renewal process. I mean, it was we had a typewriter to type out certificates. I mean, it was it sounds like so long ago world, and it was 20 years ago, but I'm not gonna date myself too bad, but it still just seems crazy. So, when I think about, how things have changed and kept me motivated, my parents always joke, patience is not my strongest attribute. I constantly like change. I like to, you know, not have every day feel the same, and that's what to me is so incredible about this industry is once you think you know it all, boom, it blows up on you again. Just looking at the market cycle even, we go from a hard market to a soft market, new players come in the game and new coverages come into the world. Cyber wasn't even a thing years ago and now it's one of the top industries. So it just continues to evolve so much. And when I think about technology, it I feel like insurance is, I don't know, 5, 10 years behind some of these other industries of the world, and, when we still yeah, it's just so interesting when I'm like, "We're just now getting e-signatures over the past 5 years," and things like that of going, "How are we that far behind?" But it's really interesting watching that next group catch on and go, "Oh, we can do that much more by technology. We can enrich our data and model behaviors a little bit more and make our users be able, whether it's from the customer standpoint and making it better for them to do business or from our agent standpoint, making it better for them to be able to interact with their clients or underwriters. It's just constantly changing."
Yeah, I agree. And it's funny, like I get excited by that part as well. The change part of it keeps me going as well because I don't think there is any other industry that's this dynamic, right? Because you think, so for instance, the cyber you said, right now they're bringing up AI in the mix as well. There's like, artificial intelligence, insurance writers and whatnot like that are coming up. So every time the society is going through a change, I feel like our industry sort of keeps. So there is always something that's coming up, especially when you put all of the regulations and stuff. Um, so, and now, like, sort of switching tack a little bit in terms of the project that we're working on together, which is, modernizing the carrier search at Heffernan. Can you walk me through how you came at it? Because I felt like when we got involved, we had a point of view. Obviously, that point of view got blown out of the water in terms of how we understood it, right? Like, not in the bad way, right? It's exactly how it's supposed to be, which is why I always say every founder I meet obviously have a point of view, but be very humbled that that point of view should be challenged and it should be changed because you don't know half the thing that the other, the people who are actually using this know. So, um, how did you come up at it? Like, how did you think about it? Why did you pick that as the most important thing?
Sure. So it's been interesting. I've actually seen 2 different, iterations of what we've had as a carrier database within Heffernan. And, originally, and I think a lot of agencies can or people can speak to it. It started as basically an Excel sheet of here's the carrier, here's what they do, here's the contact. Such a manual process. And then we went and had a different group put together of what things we'd want to see, and we built our next iteration of that.
Mm.
But what's so interesting and where I saw such a new way to look at this now is because of AI. We ha- the biggest issue we were finding with our current carrier database is as soon as you put a piece of information in there, a day later it was stale. If people aren't updating it, it doesn't do any good. And you watch as more time went on after we put in so much time to try to make this current version better, people were not updating it, not updating it. And they go back to the default of let me email everybody else, let me dial for numbers here and figure out who can do this. And it just became this thing of this what we had built became obsolete. So, really looking at it of couple key components. We want it to be easy to use.
Yeah.
It needs to be easy for people to come in and update. It needs to be easy for them to understand, easy to navigate. Because if something's not easy, people aren't going to use it. Their job is too busy, their day is too full. They need it to be easy. So that was the, first thing looking at it. The next big thing is how do we so much of this industry is not of who has appetite for what. Yes, that's a big component. There's a lot of players, but a lot of it too is that relationship. What underwriter is going to get this done for me? And that's industry knowledge. That's our brokerage knowledge. And I can't go search something right now and find that. So, how do we bring that into our current system so we're not sending people emails and somebody leaves and we lose that dynamic? We want to capture that and make it where people just keep growing off of that. So,
Right.
that was a really, really big, important part of what we wanted to build.
Yeah. When I first heard you talk about it, that's the first thing that I understood of what we're missing in the way we are talking about it, which is it is not a problem of searching, it's a problem of ingesting, right? Like how do I move the friction from collecting the data? Because that other part most people can, it's a solved problem, right? Like there's not a lot of science involved, which is always interesting for me to hear because it's like it's sort of flipping the problem statement upside down. This is not a search problem, right?
Yep.
Even though we call it a search as in the title of the project we're doing, but it's an ingestion and a how do you remove the friction from the process?
Well, and not only, the thing I look at too is not only is our team busy and moving a mile a minute, but the industry is busy. An underwriter now, they're getting asked to do that much more. They're getting that many more submissions. So coming about it in a way of I work with XYZ within our organization and they've worked with you on XYZ and really being able to build that relationship. Now this underwriter knows I'm not just submitting something to you because I want to block a market. They really want to work with you and they know that the name that's there and what's going to come behind it. They want that win with you as well, and that's doing those things are what's important. And it's so much of a tight community. It's interesting when you talk to an underwriter that you're like, what's your history? And they've been with maybe 4 or 5 different insurance carriers. Maybe they came from the broker side. A lot of, who's in the industry have moved from something else. So we all know each other and it's definitely a tight world that you want to be a part of, especially as we look at this new generation coming in. Let's make them part of the group. Let's share that knowledge and who is who.
So it's interesting the way you phrased it too, because I always think of AI or any other technology, it needs to be an amplifying factor, right? Like if you're able to do 5 today, you should be able to do 25 tomorrow. So I always think of this as like lately, this is so much more true in the AI sense than any other technology we've had before, because I feel like if you're good at something, then AI just makes your organization a superpower, right? So what I found fascinating, the way you articulated it, you are really good at the relationships, figuring out who's going to give me the best results right now. Yeah. You guys are already good at it. Let's figure out how to amplify that. That's the core focus, right? Like that.
Absolutely.
Personally, that's true for me. Like if I'm good at something, they put AI behind that I'm much, much more better at it. Averages don't matter anymore. You're good at it or not. Like that's sort of how the industry's.
Well, and I love the way you frame that because that's you listen to some people say, "Oh, AI is going to replace your job," and that the future of the world of what AI is going to bring. I totally disagree. I feel like AI is just going to make us all that much stronger. It's going to put organizational things in play. It's going to allow me to, whether realize it or not, all of a sudden I'm following a process because AI has been trained a certain way to guide me along that. And even with this, it's not that now it's replacing, me working with that underwriter or you're working with that carrier. It's just making me better and more aware that maybe I don't have to fumble along the way. I just can learn from this at the same time.
Yeah. I agree. Exactly. So and if you think about the enablement or the amplifying factor, I always think about it. So in the project that we're working on and how this is shaping out, what do you think the amplifying impact would be? Like, what is it like? To me, the way you phrased it, it sounds like the relationships that are you get to harness relationships across your organization way faster and better, right? So it
Mhm.
becomes because you're this again, like this is a personality trait that every organization has different kind of personality. What I found fascinating working with you guys is you're incredibly collaborative by nature and you're personal and relationships or it seems like you prioritize that, right? What I felt like was that when I heard, especially in the calls today and like the recent calls we've been having, what I've been taking away with me is the fact that this is this is going to amplify the relationship that they've been cultivating as an organization, not just one-off like searches. It has nothing to do with search. In fact,
Yeah.
is that
Hey,
I wanted to get your thoughts on how you think about it too.
I think that's very true. And I look at not just even the relationships with the carriers, but I think it's going to allow us to have better relationships with our clients. And, part of that with being able to get in touch with an underwriter faster so I can get a coverage question asked faster. Maybe it's something in that I can really look at this and go, "Oh, it's not a price thing or even just necessarily can they write this, but what's their claim service? What's their, accounting process that maybe now if I have a change, am I going to get my monies back faster?" There's so much more than just, "Can the carrier write this? And here's the coverage."
Right.
So now it allows me to, I feel like, do a much better job for my clients, and that relationship will get stronger, and I can have it be where now they're choosing Heffernan over broker down the street because we've got these tools that really allow us to be better at our job. Again, let me amplify and make myself better.
That's awesome. Yeah, I like that. I like that a lot. This might get a little bit more philosophical, so I'm try try not to go too deep on this one. But I feel like most of the time when folks, especially organizations that are as established as you guys are, when they adapt new technology, especially with a lot of intuition about how the industry works, a lot of in seat knowledge about how the operations works and stuff like that. When they introduce a new technology, we oftentimes get caught up in the 20%, 80-20, the 20% deep, narrow gap because we can get to 80% pretty quick, but then the 20% takes a long time to go. That's where I feel like most organizations sort of give up because it's too hard to finish that. If you don't, it's an important 20% gap to meet because if you don't meet that, the adoption will struggle, right? But the discipline that is needed from an organization perspective and a commitment to see that through, right? I can you talk a little bit about how you see that? Like, hey, let's get to, let's put a one fit in front of the other. How do you think about that? How do you think about it from like getting a team around it? I feel like you do it sort of with ease in the way I've seen you operate over the last few months. So I'm always curious how there are certain organizations that do well with that and there are others that struggle. So I'm curious to get your take on.
First thing and biggest thing is what is the problem you're trying to solve for? So you've got very clear expectations of what you're looking to solve for because that's important out of the get-go. We need to make sure if you don't know as the leader, how is your team going to embrace this? So I feel like that's, problem number one to make sure you solve for. Next big thing too is setting those clear objectives and expectations. What are people going to get out of this? Make sure they understand because if it's something where you don't have these requirements, dialed in, people maybe expect they're getting way more out of it, especially again, look at the world of AI.
Mhm.
Let's set expectations of what this is going to deliver. So I feel like those are, two big components to really dial into before anything else.
Uh,
Then from there, once you've got this product that you're really ready to deliver, let's let's again, I feel like it's a big deal of let's simplify it. You can't your audience wasn't sitting there boots on the ground working it alongside with you. So it's like you need to educate them, bring them up to speed. What is this? And make it easy. People, I think, inherently don't like change. So if you come to them and go, I'm going to make your life way more difficult, it's difficult for them to immediately, they're going to put that barrier up and go, I'm out. I'm not even going to do this. But if you make it easy of, I'm going to now solve this for you, and this is how, this is what I'm going to probably need from you. And already again, set those expectations. You're still going to have your naysayers. And I think those, some of those people that are just prone to not like change, or this, solution does not at all solve for what they're looking for, they're part of that 20%. And I need to listen to that 20% because, to your point, it's important. It's maybe something we can solve for in the future, but I can't let that 20% dictate the project. I need to look at that 80% that is probably very quiet, probably going to sit there along the way going, all right, I may not love this at first, but let me get in there. But that 80% is going to be our end user, and they're going to be the ones that keep moving forward. That 80% is going to be new employees coming in that knew no difference. So now they get to look at this solution and go, cool, this is all I know anyways. So that's the way when I look at, having this change management, how do you handle that? And that's been my approach.
Yeah. I like the way you said that. It all comes down to that, like the way you said it, I always think about this analogy that one of my mentors said way back in my career. They said every organization has an immune system, right? Think of it that change you introduce, every organization is going to fight it, regardless of all or big. And there's a reason why they fight it, because every organization sort of figures out how to work optimally for the outcome over time. And any change is a disruption to that, right? Like, so if you think about it in that context, I have a lot of empathy for that 20%. All of a sudden.
No, that's I love that. I'm big on analogies, and I so that's a great visual to put in there. I love that.
And so, because of what you said, Kelly, the one thing I wanted to ask you is, if there are people out there who are wanting to start with AI, and like, operational leaders like you, right? Like, or boots on the ground, they understand how this works, that they have a vision for how to go, but they don't know how to start. What is the one thing or a few things that you would share with them that they should think about and how they should approach?
First off the bat, when you're looking at, again, what am I trying to solve for? And I would say it can't be all these dynamics. It really needs to be very specific in a lot of ways, especially coming into it brand new, because you need to build out that framework of what's going to work for you and your team. So I think start with a problem that is narrow enough that you can really dial in. Make sure you know that solution all the way through, because the AI is only going to be as good as the people behind it. So I think that's a big piece of this. Is it's not like a plug and play of, I buy this off the shelf and here it is. Great. AI solved everything. You need to be prepared that you're going to train it. It's going to take time. It's not going to be perfect right out of the get go. So I feel like those are two really big important things to be aware of as you look at it. And then just be okay with change, because if you're not okay with it, and know that even just the AI itself, whatever you're solving for, it's going to keep changing. So be prepared for that. Sometimes I can come at a project, as funny as I say, start more narrow. I actually can come at a project sometimes and go, I want all these things. And when you look at it from that of, this agent is doing this item, but later down the line, I can have another agent do that other piece. And now they can really collaborate and work together. And, we've utilized different work groups for different items over the past several years. It's really allowed us to have capacity to grow. And that was actually something that I realized, working with individuals of, let me make this group super good at this one process and know a very clear handoff point. And then when it goes to the next person, make sure you've got things in place, that there's the oversight of when maybe something isn't going right. Because again, if your scope of your project is too large, it's hard to figure out where something went wrong when you're in it. And that's what I love with what Stitch is building as well with the agent. I can go behind the scenes and go, that didn't work. I mean, we just had a real thing you happened this week of it's like, why is that not working that way? There it is. There's the thing. And we can make that quick tweak and now it's going to work.
Yeah.
So it's just, it really is just very unique of how you guys have approached it, of looking at it, of we're not trying to solve for everything. This agent is going to be that work group to solve for this one thing.
I agree. Thank you so much, Kelly. This has been an amazing conversation and a thoughtful one too. I love that. And I always say this, that especially when startups like us work with organizations, there needs to be like something that we share together that makes this sort of partnership work. To me, when I think about how you guys work and how we work, what resonates the most is obviously the collaboration and stuff, but the trait that comes back to me is like the pragmatism at which you guys approach the problem. I always say this: technology for technology's sake doesn't impress anybody. It's like the any problem that you take, the that just the way you articulate it, right? Like you're gonna go through step by step, and pare it down. How do you simplify this to a point where it's just the one thing and one thing well, and then you can build on top. I feel like
Yeah.
that's sort of our ethos since the beginning of Stitch. So that resonates
Yeah.
a bit with us. Well, thank you so much for taking the time and for this conversation.
No, I really appreciate it as well. And it's just exciting to just keep seeing what we're going to build together.
Thanks for watching. You can subscribe to our show on YouTube or by following us on LinkedIn. And please consider giving us a rating or a review so it helps others to find our show. Visit StitchStudio.ai to learn more about our applied AI solution built for insurance. See you soon.